Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire to demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast with Reg Clark.
All right, everybody, I am ready to keep this conversation moving. Today, I'm going to talk about a very marginalized group of people. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion and who's included and who's excluded, I think it's very important that I mention this group of people, especially today, as we get ready to celebrate them. That would be fathers. So I want to talk about fathers, and quickly, I want to wish my dad, Milt Clark, a happy Father's Day. He listens to my podcast every week, as a good father does. He's supportive of me, so I'm very grateful for that. Also want to give a quick shout out to my Uncle Ernie, one of the first Black African Americans to start at linebacker in the NFL back in the 50s and 60s. The reason why I had to quit playing and come in the house every time a Paper Lion, the movie, was on, to see a little snippet of him. Shout out to my Uncle Chuck, and a really special shout out to my Uncle Wayne, who's legendary in so many ways. And the reason why I want just to take a moment to do that is because, as I was saying before, sometimes men, especially Black men, can get maligned. They can get lost in the shuffle. When a person is a good dad or representative of what a father should be, is sometimes dismissed as simply doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I never want to take that for granted. I want to take a moment just to say, wow, I'm really fortunate to have been blessed to be around male figures, including my own dad, for all my life. So take an extra moment. Think about this for a minute. When you think about diversity and inclusion, take an extra moment to be inclusive of your dad, your grandfather, uncle, someone who stepped up because they loved you, they cared about you, they were there for you. They thought you were important enough for them to do even the smallest thing, take you to get ice cream, hang out with you, show up to a game, your graduation, all of those things. No disrespect to the moms, but we celebrate you a lot all year round. So this one, I really want, I want the men to really take a day off and just say, hey, this is great for me. Sometimes we try to sneak in an additional Dad's Day on Mother's Day by telling y'all can go do what y'all want to do. Go ahead and have the day off. That's really our day. Like, we're just taking that day off. But for us, for a lot of men, a lot of fathers, we start planning Mother's Day back in February. I mean, right now, if you called to try to get some flowers for tomorrow for Father's Day, I guarantee you'll have no problem calling a flower shop and ordering up 6 dozen roses if you wanted to. They'd have them there in 20 minutes for you. But we're celebrating Mother's Day. We got to put those orders in way in advance, and they don't deliver on Sundays. And we got to put in the reservation for the restaurant well in advance. For Father's Day, you can probably call anywhere tomorrow at 11 and be there by 11:15. So talk about a marginalized group. That would be us, the fathers. So I want to just take this real time to say thank you to all the individuals, whether it's a teacher or a coach. In my case, a band teacher, Vincent Daniels. Just a big shout out to Mr. VD, as we affectionately called him, a band teacher who took the moment to be there for you, to help you out, a dean in your school, somebody who took a vested interest to see you be successful. And this this goes across the color spectrum, the race spectrum. There are individuals, there are dads who are the neighborhood dads. Shout out to the neighborhood dads who take the time to teach kids how to throw a football or play basketball in the backyard. Or shout out to the transportation dad who picks up the kids and shuttles them back and forth. And again, this is not to disparage any of the things that the moms do. This is really a moment just to say thank you to the fathers. Thank you for being included and being a part of the lives of so many individuals, So again, there's the barbecue dad, the dad that's always out there on the grill, no matter what. SHeletta knows a little bit about this because her husband is an excellent cook and is always in the kitchen. So before, you just simply hand dad the apron and the tongs tomorrow, so he could cook out on his own day. Let's just take a moment to just really celebrate all that he does and appreciate all that he does. We have a joke. Me and the dads have a joke like, hey, I can't wait to get my tie or my mug tomorrow. Of course, we appreciate everything we get, and we don't make a big fuss about it. Actually, it looked kind of weird if a man was making a fuss about not being recognized on a certain day. So we don't make a fuss about it. We don't complain about it. We're happy to do whatever it takes. So when it comes to the summer trip this summer, and we drive 1,100 of the 1,000 miles of that trip, and I said that correctly, 1,100 of the 1,000 miles if you add in the bathroom breaks and restaurant stops and everything. We don't complain about doing all the driving. We don't complain about that because we actually enjoy that. We would like for you to go to sleep while we drive, as a matter of fact. Don't wake up, So we actually appreciate it when you wake up and say, you good? And we say, yeah, and then you go back to sleep. That's perfect for us as dads. We enjoy you as a family, and we love being there for you and doing the things that we do. I learned that from my dad. I hope I teach that to my sons, that, everything that we do is born out of love, tough love sometimes. But as fathers, there's just so much that goes on that we don't show a lot of emotion about. And that's intentional sometimes, is that we don't want to show the emotion, but we want to show you the strength. And a lot of times that's the standard that we are held at, is being the pillar of strength. So recognize your dad. I would be remiss if I would not mention Juneteenth, and how now dad has to not only share his day with graduations and summer birthdays and vacations, but now all of a sudden we have to celebrate it along with Juneteenth. And I'm about as excited about Juneteenth as a Jewish kid is about Kwanzaa. We'll get into that. 158 years later, we got a holiday. I would prefer voting rights myself. And when I think about those voting rights, I also think about John Lewis, who's a father who's passed away, who has since passed away. I think about all of those fathers who are on the line marching for voting rights, or those fathers that were in Vietnam fighting a war while others were fighting for civil rights back home. I think about all the dads that were fighting for the civil rights here. I think about, the oldest Juneteenth celebration is right here in Houston, down at Emancipation Park, started by a gentleman by the name of Jack Yates. As a matter of fact, there's a high school here after his name, Jack Yates. I think about all those dads throughout those years who've been on the front line of civil rights, who've been in workplaces, working really hard and having to deal with that duality of going to work and not being treated as an equal or being treated fairly, and then still coming home and putting a positive spin on it when they got home. I think about these things and I think, wow, dads are truly amazing. Not just dads, but those people who present a father figure in your life. So if you would just take a moment and say thank you, whatever it is that you can make the day a little bit easier. Sometimes it's just simply disappearing. Dads appreciate alone time. A great Western movie, a cold beverage, maybe some leftovers. We're not picky at all, but those are the things that we want to think about as we go into Father's Day, a marginalized group. But take the time just to check on that person in your life that's important to you, that's a male figure, that means a lot to you, and say thank you. Check on them, make sure they're doing all right. Have that extra conversation with them. Listen to one more story from them. You'd be surprised at how valuable those stories will be at a certain time and period in your life. If you have smaller kids, make sure that they're in touch with your dad or your grandfather. Those are very valuable memories that most of us who've had the fortune of being around our grandparents will never forget, and they go a long way for us. So I'm going to pay the meter and park it right there and just say Happy Father's Day to everyone.
Tune in each week as Reg Clark shows you how to demand and implement diversity and inclusion at your job. To hear more, check out his previous shows on SHeletta makes me laugh.com.